We spent a lot of time around here accumulating all sorts of stash and supplies for our knitting. So we'll have multiple types of needles, interchangeable needle sets, straight ones, double pointed needles, lots of yarn, and of course lots of projects that are kind of in different stages of completion. So we thought it might be helpful to put a little video together talking about all of the different types of storage solutions we find and different ways we actually put things together so that we can find what we want and that they're all stored safely and in a way that when we come back to them, they're in as good a condition as when we left them. But most importantly, so we don't lose anything. So come on, take a look at all these different things with us today. After you start knitting, you'll discover that you accumulate supplies and tools very quickly. And figuring out how to store them so you can find what you want and that they all stay in good condition is the next, well, either a challenge or the fun thing, if depending on your viewpoint. There's lots of different ways of storing all of your items, right from your needles all through to the unused yarn and finished knits. And I'm going to go through a few of my favorite methods and things you might want to think about when you're making the decision. So we'll start off with your needles and hooks and anything like that. So if you've got, if you're a crocheter, you'll have hooks. You may have double pointed needles, you might have circular needles, or you might have straight needles. Straight needles, because they're so long, you don't want to damage them. I always find I get just a nice pot and stand them all up in it, and that works really well. However, I have got a lot more interchangeable needles is the main thing I have. And there's two things that I use for that. Either when I had just a few, I used to use a pencil case, and in here with these, I would pop in the needle tips and store them all in there nice and safely. So that if you've just got a few needles, that works really well. It'll actually even work for a few circulars as well, where you can just wind up the cord and you can tuck those in as well. So that stays pretty well. If you've got a full interchangeable set, they may have come with a bag like this. So your storage solution is kind of ready-made. So these ones here, you've got all of your tips in here, and I came with wooden ones, but I've been adding in a few metal ones as well. You can pop other supplies in here, like things like grips to hold and turn. And then I wind all of my cords up into the back here. So I've just got them all twisted up like this. So if I need them, I pull them out. I can check what length I want and then pop them all back in here again like that. So it means that they stay in pretty good condition. They don't take up too much room, but they're not so squashed up that they're going to be misshapen when I take them out again. So for a smaller set, something like this that comes basically with your interchangeable set works really well. If you've got a much larger set and you have got kind of some mix and match sets, something like this might be good. I got this, I think it was off somewhere on Etsy many years ago, and it is for interchangeable needles again. And let me open this up. So this has got, it folds over, and then you can pop all the different ones here. I've seen people even go ahead and put the different sizings on here, you know, maybe with iron-on ones or stickers that stay on. You can pop your other tools and cords in the back here, and this particular one here has just a zip here where you can put, there's not much left in here, but there's again just extenders and tips and things like that. So something like this is good if you have a load of different sets and the smaller pre-made one doesn't work. I do find this much handier for travel, so I tend to end up using this more, and this has become more long-term storage is probably the best way to put it. Where it means that if there's things I'm not going to use in a while, but I want to know where they are, then these kind of sets are particularly good. So what you want to look for with this is just an interchangeable needle bag. You can find a variety of this for ones that's not interchangeable, just bigger sections where you can fold the circular needles in and tuck them down like this. So basically, if you're storing these, what you end up doing is hooking them like this, and then tucking these in. So all you'll need for that is you need a bigger top section because you want to hold these. But you don't want to squish it down so much that you end up kinking the wires an awful lot. So that's what you want to think about when you're storing the cords. So there are the usual ways that I will store my needles. In terms of accessories, which are going to be stitch markers, buttons, little gizmos. I collect these boxes. You know the boxes that you get and you never know what else to do with them? That's what I save them for. I can put, like, they're great for buttons, or if you use beads, popping them in here. But just little tins, keep a supply of small tins. You may have maybe mints. There's other ones that I've had where I've gotten some mints before, and I've just kept the little Altoid ones. I think you get those in the US a lot, and they're perfect for this as well, for small little items. So that is perfect for hanging onto your small bits and pieces. So the next thing is yarn. You've got a few different ones. You've got unused ones like this, which are in a skein or a hank. You've got just balls, which haven't really been used before. And then you got my favorite, which is partial balls that are left after you finish projects. So if you've got ones like this that are in a skein, my suggestion is, if you're not planning on using them in the next few weeks, leave them like this, because the yarn, when it's just twisted like this, it's much more relaxed. You're not going to stretch it out of shape, and this can be stored for a very long time without damaging the yarn. So unless you're using immediately, keep it like this in a skein. Cakes are not cakes, balls of yarn can be just left as they are. Obviously, if this was new, you'll have a ball band on it. They can just be kept as is. And then you've got your individual ones. What I try to do is I try to take these just Ziploc bags and collect anything that is in the same family. So if it's the same yarn, or if it's the same weight, or perhaps it's the same color, and just having a good collection of different size Ziploc bags is really, really good, because you can label them. You can figure out if you want to have something that might match with a particular project, or you're using a similar yarn and you just need a little bit extra. I will almost always keep the ball bands tucked in the middle here, because that actually means that when you pull this mystery yarn out in 5 years' time, you will remember what it is, you'll know the dye lot, you'll know the name, and you will know what weight it is, because you will not remember. So, and also yarn holds, like, it's not going to go off if you store it in a place that is not damp, that no moths or dust can get to it. This will be perfect when you take it out. So my suggestion for storing yarn when I save it, because I do tend to have things for longer stretches, is whether it's in individual skeins or ones like this. I do use Ziploc bags because our house can get quite damp, and we have in times past had some moth issues. So by storing it in these bags, it keeps it safe. And then I've got collections of Tupperware containers of different sizes, kind of big boxes, where I can put the bags that are all going to be similar, either unused or partially used, and I stack them over in a corner. So I would suggest keeping them in like that. And then if there's stuff that you're planning on using, an open shelf where you can put ones that you're getting ready for your next project, you're not worried about them sitting out, are absolutely perfect. So long-term storage, keep it in boxes, bags, away from dust, sunlight, or bright sunlight anyway, and protect it from any insects. And I mean, in our case it's moths, but you may have other insects where you're living. So that's what I do for my yarn storage. And then we've got a couple of different things with projects. So this is my favorite part. If you've got a work in progress, I would suggest having lots of bags of different sizes, so that when you're going to travel or do something, you can just pick up the relevant bag. So these are small little project bags. The benefit is they're nice and lightweight, and you can also tie them off and keep them safe if you're traveling somewhere else. You can hang one on your arm if you're walking, when you're working on it, and they're just a very convenient size. However, it's not going to be quite big enough if you're working on a sweater. So I will go for a larger bag like this. This is just a cotton carry-all bag. Again, there's handles, so you can carry it. You can tie the two together, which again is particularly handy if you have got little animals that like to get into it, such as kittens. But the benefit of these cotton bags is they're not too thick, and they're lightweight. So if you want to put this bag into something else, it's very convenient. You've also got slightly bigger, more solid bags. So things like this, which they're just custom made. They've got a flat bottom, so they'll sit like this. You can zip it up, there's a hook. They're beautifully made, and you know they're very nice for storing things, and the fact that you can zip them does mean it keeps things safe. Only disadvantage is it's a little bulkier, it's a little heavier, so if you're trying to minimize things when you travel, these aren't going to be quite as convenient. So that's for work in progress, your whips. And the final thing is your finished knits. So I've got a few different ways of storing my finished knits. For just things like shawls and things that are in regular use, they stay on the coat hook. They stay downstairs. I'll keep it attached to the coat. I'll hang it up, and then just at the end of the season, I'll take them in and I'll wash them if anything looks like they need washing. Sweaters, what I end up doing is I will keep them in just a very large Tupperware container so that I can fold them very gently, not press down. Got a couple of cedar balls I'll throw in with it, but by having a cover over it, it means that it'll keep any insects and dust off them, because hand knits don't need to be washed very often. Obviously, if you've got food staining or something like that, it's one thing, but if it's aired out, then folded up and put away, you can actually wear it a lot more than you would something that's not wool. But the only time I would try to get everything washed is at the end of the season, coming up to the summer. I'll get everything out, have it a wash, reblock things that are needed, and then I'll fold them and put them away with some cedar balls or something like that to be covered, so that the dust, again, it's dust, light, and insects is what you want to keep things away from. So hopefully these give you some ideas on different ways that you can store all of the different parts of your project.